bothersome game mismanagement things this season as there were in the past seasons, but there have been a couple, and I don't know. I still won't believe that he's. It's unfortunate, I guess. It's almost unfair because it's going to take him likely coaching them into a Super Bowl, if not winning the Super Bowl, for me to think that he's a legit coach, and that's probably an unreasonable standard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of there with you, though, honestly. I'm just not a huge fan of his. I think he is an amazing defensive coordinator. Coach, I don't think he's that great of a head coach. I mean, their record outdoors against winning teams under him is like 0-13 or something like that. I mean, and the really big games, granted, if you want to call Dallas, they did perform better than they typically do for a Sunday night football game. But typically for big games, they just don't show up. And until I won't say he has to win the Super Bowl, but until he can get them there and get through the big spot playoff games and get the teams to show up and not have the defense go completely missing.
Yep.
I just don't have my full trust in that yet.
Yep. I know, I totally agree. And, look, they're a better team than the Broncos. They should win this game. And even, staring into the bye week, they have distractions. I get that. But that's where you need to make sure that they're focused. And there's only 16 games. And you need, this is the NFL. And there can't be excuses. You can't take excuses like we were heading into our bye week. And that's why we started, at least, so poorly today. Obviously, the outcome notwithstanding, because we haven't gotten to the outcome yet. So, anyway, we'll see about that. Let's move over to Wildland for the balance then of the show. Plenty to talk about there. You were at the game yesterday, although it sounds like you were thoroughly uninterested, or at least they had done a good job of boring you by the third period. What was that the first time you'd seen them live this season?
It is, yeah. It just wasn't. I mean, I don't know how it came off on TV, but it just wasn't a very exciting game. I don't know if it's, the crowd, there were a lot of empty seats, for one. I see the changes in the pregame optics or whatever, but I still don't think they're that great. And I don't know, it's just not a super exciting team to watch, in my opinion. And with how they've played this year, I'm definitely less interested than I have been most years. So, all of it combined maybe just made it for a experience.
Well, and part of that is, Bruce saying, recognizing they're underskilled relative to basically every other team in the league, and has been saying we've got to win these ugly games, these close games. So maybe part of that is intentional in terms of being boring. And for a long time, the problem is for such a long time since this team was inaugurated as an expansion team, that was the mantra. And so if we're going back to that, that just feels like what we wasted the first almost 20 years of this team's existence.
No, absolutely. And I have to say, the 3-on-3, they're just so bad. And Dubnyk on that last goal was just atrocious.
Clean look, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It just came down the side, just right past them. It's just.
That was Stevie Eiserman. But it sounded like it maybe hit Spurgeon's stick a little bit, and that it fluttered. But I guess my point with Dubnyk, and this is one of the topics I wanted to hit on with the Wild, but my problem with Dubnyk is. At the NHL level, you need your goalie to steal games every now and then. And I asked on Twitter after the game, because I honestly could not remember the last time he stole a game. And that would have been a situation where you just need a save. We just need a save. That's the first shot you've seen in overtime. They needed him to make that save. Tipped, not tipped, whatever. Clean look from basically the hash marks. He has to make that save.
Absolutely. And what did people respond to? Because I can't think of.
Somebody brought up one from last season, but and then it was like the year he got here kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then there were a lot of jokers about steal games for the Wild or for the other team, but that which is appropriate in this case. But no, I mean and if not the full game, my point is that's where you just need to make a save. Like in that case, you just have to make that save.
Right.
And it was interesting to hear Bruce allude to that in his press conference after the game, talking about that statistic that he's got in the back of his mind he wants to go dig up. But I mean the problem is Stalock is not an NHL starter. He's just not. So I guess that's only a problem though if you don't want to have a bad season this year. And as I also tweeted out this morning, they're on track. The Wild has played 20 games, so quarter of their season, and they're sitting in last place points wise in the NHL right now as of games finished last night. So, and obviously that means they won't be out of that after tonight because they're not playing. But yeah. So dead DFL 31st overall in the league with 16 points to this point of the season for the Minnesota Wild, which is good. That's where they want. I think that's where they want to be.
I agree. I mean, I'm all in on. Let's just finish absolutely horrendous and get as high of a draft pick as absolutely possible. This team needs it so badly. They've needed it so badly for a long time. It's a really strong, from everything I've heard, it's a really strong draft this year, and it's a really strong draft next year. So if they could just be terrible for a couple years, it would do wonders for their future. And It would finally give us a chance to hopefully get a game breaker. Typically when you're drafting in the top 3, 4, 5, you don't have to take that many risks.
Right.
I mean, obviously there are some busts, but when you're, where we were last year, you have to be willing to take risks. And Fenton ended up going with a safer pick. In my opinion, not that I think Boldy will be bad or anything like that, but I would have gone for Caulfield and taken the chance to have an actual goal scorer. But to get at the top of the draft, we should be able to find that. So I'm all in on top 5 pick for the next year or two.
What did your eyeballs tell you about as Russo dubbed it, the geek squad line, the Greenway, Eriksson and Cunnin line? And that's a bit of a loaded question, but what was your thoughts on them when they were in the ice?
I mean, I thought they were fine. I honestly, I was trying to find where the fourth line was for a lot of the game. I think they had like a shift early, and I rarely saw them on the ice. So we must have been rolling 3 lines for most of the game. But I mean, I thought Greenway was, he was strong along the wall, though he did get knocked over a few times.
Okay.
Cunnin had a nice goal coming down the side.
Yep.
I mean, to me, just let the young kids play.
Yes.
At this point.
Yeah, no, exactly. Especially because some of the not young kids are pissing me off as well. Parise has 2 goals where he beat a goalie, or 3 maybe. But I mean, the guy that drives me the most crazy, I guess, not even just crazy, but the guy that's the most the biggest touchstone for me is Zucker. He's just not an NHL finisher. And he, the one season that he has put up his most numbers was his contract year, which happens time and time again. And the guys get paid and they get fat and happy and they stop scoring. And that really seems like what his deal is. And not just being fast isn't enough if you can't do anything with that speed. And he just can't. It's just not who he is. I mean, he's all this talk about we need him to produce. Well, he's still part of that core group of forwards that we have on this roster within the grouping of sort of 3 lines worth of second or third line forwards, and really more like third line forwards on a reasonable team. So he's he gets a lot of protection, I think, amongst fans and some media, although not Russo, I don't think, but some media because he and his family do such great things in the community, and because his wife is a media personality, and I totally get that. But I also, but if that's the only reason we're sticking up for him, as opposed to that plus he performs and produces on the ice, then that isn't enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the 1 year where he scored all those goals was more of an outlier. I think he's probably more of a 20 to 25. I also think he's almost too fast sometimes. Like he uses his speed, but there's sometimes when he'll go too fast and he'll like lose control, or he'll skate past the puck because he's going so fast. Just noticing he did it a couple times yesterday. But I fully agree. I mean, they needed him to step up and be one of the top goal scorers this year. And I mean, not that we really have any top goal scorers this year, but
he's producing at his sort of career to date pace. So he's got 12 points in 20 games. So that's whatever. That's more than half a point a game. But his NHL career, 226 points in 431 games. So it's also a little more than half a point a game. So that's my point. We're seeing the Zucker we're seeing the real Zucker. And he's certainly not a game breaker, and he's just not a finisher. He's just fast, basically. Now, what's interesting is it sounds to me like the other fast guy right now is Fiala on this roster. I guess I confess I'm not sure if they're both the same play the same wing, but you wonder what you could do with an all speed line. You put somebody who can keep up with them in the middle. I don't know. And if frankly, like we've been saying, if doing that means they win a couple more games and jeopardize a really good, having the most ping pong balls in the box at the lottery, then I don't know that I want that either.
I think it would certainly be interesting to see, although I do believe they're both left,
yeah.
Although I think Fiala has been playing.
That was the whole deal, right?
Yeah, I can't remember if they have him on his offside or not. But no, yeah, I don't want to do anything to give us more wins, as bad as that sounds. And it's hard to like root for them to lose, and I get that, but I look more towards the future and am willing to suffer for a couple of years, as much as that sucks. I get it. But I would enjoy watching games more if we were like, you know what? It is going to take a step back. We're going to let these guys develop. I'll watch the young kids on the first line.
Yeah.
More than, knowing that that's the plan. Let's watch them grow. And we have a light at the end of the tunnel to look forward to.
Yes.
Let's get a couple high-end players and let's see what we can do. And that to me was more exciting than just, oh, well, we're going to, we're just going to fight for an eighth playoff spot and get your butt handed to you in the first round if you can even make the playoffs anymore. And it's just, that's old and redundant, and it's done nothing for us but keep us right in the middle without any high-end talent.
Completely agree. Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. It may be the most encouraging thing I've heard about around the Wild in all season is Russo intimating that it sounds like perhaps Craig has started to accept that this team is nowhere near contending. Did you pick that up also? Or was it in his podcast, the last live show podcast?
Yeah, his last live show podcast, I definitely picked that up, and that's definitely a sigh of relief and long overdue if, Craig really does. I mean, he has two eyes. I mean, I know he's a super fan, and look, I get that he's going to lose money for a couple years.
Right.
Right? But you bring in a game breaker, and you'll have more playoff series for the next, decade.
Yes.
Because you have a good team, and they're not going to be just 4 games, sometimes 2 playoff games a year.
Yep.
Right? You'll get more money in the longer rounds. You'll get more exposure because you have high-end talent. That'll all just bring in more money for him. But it's going to be a struggle at the beginning. But if you look in the long term, I think he'll benefit more from it. And I hope he... if he's serious about wanting to win a Stanley Cup, it's something he's got to just understand and be willing to do.
Exactly. I mean, we're not going to win a Stanley Cup on the current trajectory. If they don't change the narrative in the course of the franchise, they're not going to win a Stanley Cup. I mean, they're not. I mean, just squeak in and be hot and get lucky doesn't work if you don't have talent. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And I don't want to hear that. Well, St. Louis,
Nope.
last year because we are nothing like St. Louis.
Nope. They have talent. They have talent that was not produced